Hey comrades, and welcome to another episode of We Read It One Night, the podcast where two sisters accidentally start a romance revolution. Whether you're a new listener or a longtime fan, we'd appreciate it so much if you could drop us a quick rating and review while you're listening. It takes just a couple seconds, and it's such a great and free way to support the podcast. In this episode, we're starting the Wallflowers series by Lisa Kleypas with the first book, Secrets of a Summer Night. This series is one of the all-time historical romance greats. As well as being our first Wallflowers book, this episode has some other firsts. Like the first time we specifically tell you to, under no circumstances, read the audiobook or the ebook edition. As always, we appreciate you all so much, and we're so glad that you're still listening. Enjoy the show.
What's up?
We saw the baby foxes today.
Oh, really? How many are there?
There are two, and we realized they're exactly like the cats. Like the way that they were playing and like taking turns chasing each other and like jumping on each other.
Yeah.
And then at one point they tried to involve their mom, and then the mom like just bodied them like fully, was just like, don't, this is
You're
not
done. That's
like, get off me.
Yeah.
And this is me time.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were so cute. And this is the first time we've seen them. We haven't seen them yet.
I'm glad they finally brought an offering like the foxes brought.
But yeah, they only have two this year. I feel like recent years they have like four. They've had like four.
Might have been three last year. Yeah, I definitely have a video somewhere. Have you seen any baby Wootses?
No, I think the groundhogs have given up on having children while the foxes are present. So which sad. Like fair enough.
Oh, it's so sad.
Like,
they were so cute too. Like there were so many of them. They're like 10.
I know, but then the fox is like, buffet. And then the fox moved. At least we get some babies. And I should have known the fox. I was like, oh, I don't think the fox has had babies this year because I hadn't seen two of them. Like I only saw two of them like one time. So I was like, oh, I guess there's only one fox. But now I remember that I did hear the dulcet tones of fox mating sounds outside our house in like February. So they were out there. Is the cat still there?
No, I took him home on Sunday night. And I had the feeling while I was packing him up, I was like, I feel like I'm forgetting something. But like I couldn't. I mentally like ran through everything. And like 2 days later, I like realized the pooper scooper fell in my closet. Because it was in like a plastic bag. Like she boldly didn't give me any like bags to like put his poop in like when I scooped it, so I was just using like plastic bags and like basically just like throwing any plastic bags that I had like near the litter box, so then like it just looked like one of those like empty, like so that I would have them to like the poop. I was like, you were throwing, and then but I also put but I also put like the scooper, like I wrapped it in plastic bags so it wouldn't just be like sitting on the floor.
Yeah,
no, he's so cute. I miss him. Good cat. Okay, so this book,
they were starting the Wallflowers.
Yeah, this book was so boring, and I don't know if that's just because I read it so long. Like,
no, I'll tell you why it was boring. Okay, well, first of all, this was a listener requested series, so we're starting the Wallflowers. This is the first book in the Wallflowers series, which is Lisa Kleypas's like most famous series. Like we've already done Marrying Winterborn, which features children of the Wallflowers, so it's like all interconnected, whatever. I was so steamed. I made a 3-minute long TikTok about this. That's why I was talking to you about how TikTok wouldn't let me add captions, because I had a 3-minute long rant that I was like listening to this on my walk, and I was like, I have to pause this and I have to get these. I was like so mad. Okay, so this is an edited version of the original book. They're not calling it abridged, but I would argue that with the amount of things taken out, it's absolutely abridged. So essentially there's this trend in romance novels. I mean, you've seen this in like children's novels too, where they like are editing the books to make them more palatable, to like take out the problematic bits. Right. And the Wallflower series, like, for example, in the second book, there's a scene in which the heroine is drunk when her and the hero have sex for the first time. Right. And so there's like consent. And in this like book, I knew that they had taken out the prologue because like the hero kisses.
Okay. Pause for a second. So this is the book with the prologue where they're like standing in some stupid display and he like touches her. Okay. Because I was okay. So
that immediately cut it out. But it wasn't just that. I knew they had cut out the prologue, and I was like, you know what? Like the prologue, like there's like a 2-year gap between the prologue and like the rest of the book. Like fine, whatever. Like I can deal with that being cut out. They cut out so much, and it wasn't all like quote unquote problematic scenes. Like they just like cut out things to like make it shorter. Like I don't know, because I have a digital copy and a physical copy of this book. Both of them are the originals. And they cut out so much. There's a scene in this book.
It's so bold that they don't call it that.
But it was so, at the end, it was like, this is an unabridged audiobook. And then it was like,
it's bullshit.
So this is like an altered edition from the original edition. And I was like, so like the audacity for them to be like, oh, it's unabridged. But like, oh, we cut out like, they cut out at least 10% of the book.
Yeah.
Like I was
sense.
comparing, for example, the scene that really got me steamed was the fact there's a scene in the original book where Simon and Annabelle, who are hero and heroine, they're like making out in an alcove while like hiding from musicians that are like taking their break. So it's like one of those like, oh, we have to be quiet. Like that's a really fucking good scene. Like that's a hot scene.
Yeah.
They cut that and trimmed it down so that they make out for like 2 seconds, and then Annabelle went away. And I paused it, like she ran away, and I was like, wait, I don't remember there being
because she's like
a kiss between like the time that they have dinner and the time they make out in the alcove. Like, what was this? And so I went to my digital edition and I was like, excuse me. Excuse me.
That makes so much sense. Cause I don't remember like loving this book, but I also don't remember thinking it was like so boring. And like, I was like, maybe it's just cause I've like read so many, maybe because this is one of the earlier ones we read. So like, maybe I wasn't like, you know, more like, wow, that's
they
really
took
bold.
out the essence of Kleypas. I feel like Kleypas's books are these like broody, like she writes kind of darker books. These aren't like Julia Quinn light historicals. Like they took out. I was like, this isn't a Lisa Kleypas book. Like they like neutered it. I was so mad. Wow. And I think that this trend in general, like there are some people who are like, oh, this is stupid because everyone's so sensitive these days and everyone's a snowflake. And like, that's not why I think that it's stupid. I think it's stupid because it's like attempting to erase, like this book was written and it was published at the time and like, it was okay at the time.
Right. And like, if you think there's a problem and you want to release a new version, like make it clear that it's not like have at least the original
or just promote current books, promote books from authors that are writing now.
Sure.
That are probably like more like why?
I mean, I get like wanting to like make something that was already successful,
but it's just so. My other problems with it is one, also just particularly in romance. Like I feel like part of the whole ethos of the romance genre is the fact that like it's the genre that's most quick to change, like with the times. Like I feel like we're at the forefront of like, oh, that's not okay now. Okay, like we're gonna like update. You know what I mean? Like just even thinking of romance novels 10 years ago versus now, I feel like other genres don't change that quickly. And
definitely.
So like it's part of the romance history that like, those quote unquote bodice rippers from the 80s, like there's some really problematic shit in them, but they still are like our important part. Like if you erase the problematic bits, you not only like decrease the value of the story, but you're also just trying to sanitize like the history. It's like, put like trigger warnings in the front.
Yeah.
But like, don't like the fact, and they're so disingenuous about it. If I hadn't read the book before, I wouldn't know that this was a bridge. I just would think it was not as good as I originally thought. And I honestly, like, the more I thought about it is that I think the whole like romance novels give women unrealistic expectations. And like how that's like infantilizing and like implying that like romance readers can't tell the difference between like a story and real life. Like I honestly think this is the same line of thought in terms of like implying that like you can't understand that like this book was from a different period and like it was acceptable 20 years ago to have this in a book and it's not acceptable. It's just like and you know what two sections of literature I have been hearing the most about like editing old books for? Romance novels and children's books. And I think it's very significant that romance novels and children's books are the most that are being edited. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because like there's so like if you're gonna go all the way, like there's so many things, like so many fantasy books that are like geared
oh my
towards
God,
men.
that are
Like
being written
they're
now.
currently, yeah, I know,
Fantasy
I
books.
know. Yeah, no, it's like so bold. Is that really true statistically? Like,
No, that's purely anecdotal. I mean, children's books, I feel like it's the top thing that's being altered because
yeah.
you hear about Dr. Seuss. I think Roald Dahl is having a bunch of ones edited, like children's books particularly. And like there are very few
It's giving
situations like,
1984.
yeah, right. And I was talking to my friend, the friend that introduced me to romance novels, and she sent me a whole audio message, which has now deleted itself, but she worded it really well, just like whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'll get her to text it to me and then I'll like read out her text. No, I forgot because I was so steamed. Because I was like so pent up. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. And it was also the fact in this book, like it wasn't even just the quote unquote problematic bits. Like they just like cut out, like there were just whole sections in which like Simon, the hero, was like brooding about how much he loves Annabelle. And like that, they just cut that. I was like, what? I was just like, what? Like,
yeah.
and there were things, there's like the love confession at the end there's so many payoffs in that confession that reference earlier things that happened in the book that were cut. And so there are things that just like, don't make sense anymore.
Right. Like the whole, because I remember thinking like, oh yeah, like I finally remembered by the time his mom, like, okay, I remembered that like the main conflict was like, oh, she doesn't actually love him, but like he loves her, and like he thinks she just wants to marry him for the money. And we don't actually get that at all until like his mom says it to him, like literally 90% through the book. And I was like, right. So no, that definitely had to have come up before, like, because that doesn't even make sense. Like that's like the only time that's like said.
Yeah, because in when she confesses her love, she was like, she said something like, I was wrong when I told you I didn't know where I belonged. They cut that scene, doesn't exist. Like, unless I totally missed it, and I don't think I did.
Yeah.
Like that, they cut that scene out. And I was like, why would she say this? Like, if a reader, and also there's like, if you're gonna edit it for like problematic wording, like
there's a lot of things. No, I know.
just the audacity of them to be like this is an unabridged audiobook when, because I remember when I looked at the audiobook is 8.5 hours, and I remember being like, that feels really short, because like I remember this is a long book. Like this book is, I looked at my copy, it's like almost 400 pages.
No, because I remember if there was any complaint about the book the first time I read it was that it was like broody and like
that's what
Kleypas, like a lot.
Kleypas,
no,
like,
I know, just like a lot, and it was just like a lot, and like darker. Because I remember this is probably the first book I read where like historical, where the heroine like was even close to not being like of the highest social class. Like she's technically like whatever, but like she's poor, TM. And, like needs the money.
Yeah,
wow, it's just really bold.
I'm really annoyed. Listener, well, that explains a lot. You know that we are big fans of audiobooks, but I wouldn't recommend the audiobook for this, simply because I think that you should read the original version. I think this book is worse for all the things that were taken out. Like, I just don't think it's as sexy. I don't think it's as romantic. Like, yeah. If the book doesn't have, and I checked, the Kindle edition is the edited version because it doesn't have the prologue in it. And that's the thing with digital editions of books, is that it's like they automatically update. You know what I mean? Like when they make edits to the ebook edition, they're going to update it regardless of whether you want the new edited version.
Is that true? Even if you bought it? Wow, that's
bullshit. And listen, sometimes that's good if they're like fixing a typo, right? That it just automatically updates.
Okay, but I just feel like, because you buy that, like that's not like if you
thing.
But if you stop paying for Kindle, you still get to keep the books. That's bullshit.
But it's automatic. It's the same thing with like covers. Like I've seen that discussion around covers where they're like, I liked the original cover and my cover got updated despite the fact that I bought the book before the cover change. Like,
yeah, that's bullshit. That's stupid.
That's like, guys, if you
should have a choice.
The only way to have a book that is truly yours is to have a physical version of it.
Wow, it's really giving 1984. Like,
don't read this book unless it has the prologue in it. If it doesn't have the prologue, it's not the right edition. Yeah. Anyway, I was like really steamed. I quite frankly, half of my notes are being like, are you kidding? Thankfully, they didn't cut out my favorite line in this book that has stuck with me since I first read it. And that is that like later during like during one of the sex scenes, Annabelle is described as like approaching the sex with, quote, the grace of a sportive seal.
A what seal?
A sportive seal. Like,
what does that mean?
Like an enthusiastic like seal. Like it's one of my
no, there was a lot of like interesting descriptive language.
That's what, like, listen, if there's one thing Lisa is gonna do, it's come up with like wild euphemisms and like fantastically like flowery language. Like it's just like Lisa, you know what? And I love her for it. Like
Lisa's gonna Lisa.
Quite frankly, it works. She makes it work. I don't know how she does it, but she does.
That's great.
All right. So now that I got that rant, I was so glad that I had headphones in, that I had like headphones that you could easily see, because I was like filming myself, like I was like talking out loud.
Yeah.
People would walk by with their dogs and I'd have to like be quiet, and then I'd like check that they were far enough behind me.
If you just like commit, like
no, sometimes I did. I was like, you know what, I'm on a roll. Like I was I did like the audiobook narrator though. She made me feel like my elderly like prim grandmother was like reading from her favorite like,
oh my gosh,
from when she was a child. I liked her. Her name was Rosalind.
Rosalind?
Yeah, Rosalind.
That's great. Love that. Yeah, I feel like I assumed it was like an audiobook narrator that we were like familiar with.
I think she's done some of earlier Kleypas books. I think newer Kleypas is Mary Jane Wells.
Mary Jane Wells. That's who I'm thinking of. Okay.
But Rosalind is one of the earlier ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Anyway, Secrets of a Summer Night.
Woohoo.
The first book in the Wallflower series. And I understand why it's called the Wallflower series, but also the fact that all of the books are named after seasons, like, and yet the title of like the series is not like something seasonal is just funny. I feel like it's a missed opportunity.
Like, yeah. Season flowers.
Yep.
So are we going to talk about the prologues? We didn't read it this time around.
The prologue is that they go to like 1830s movie theater basically, and they make out in the dark.
And I really didn't like I remember the prologue didn't make me want to read the rest of the book, but I pushed through because you were like, this is really good. Like, the series is good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Simon Hunt is an underappreciated Kleypas hero because he is the biggest fucking simp on the planet.
Oh, absolutely.
He's such a simp.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But it's still like an alpha hero. Like, it's just like, it's the perfect combo. It's the sweet spot of alpha hero plus simp. Like, Simon Hunt does not get the appreciation he deserves.
So basically Simon grew up as like a butcher's son, but then like went on to become like 1800s railroad magnate TM. So he's like super rich, but he's not part of the aristocracy. Which
I would like to note is like basically the same backstory as Winterborn, which is the only other Kleypas we've done. He was also a butcher's son and also threatens to carve up the village.
Oh my God.
Like both Simon.
It also reminded me, what was that show we watched that was set in like, it was set in like the it was like I guess the same time here, like 1880s, but in New York.
This is 1830s.
Sure, but you know what I'm talking about, like the show we watched with Bob, but The Gilded Age. Yeah, it reminded me of the couple from that, except they're American, obviously. But
yeah, and also like 50 years apart.
And then Annabelle, yeah, but they still have trains. Whatever. It's really there's. I feel like no, you're gonna tell me there's a difference. Come on, they're definitely wearing bustles in this. Like, you can't tell me any differently. And then Annabelle, and then let me get out the setup. And then I was trying to get them close to each other to compare. And then Annabelle is part of the aristocracy, but she's like poor TM because her dad like sucked. Like, and that's not like stated, but you could imply like her dad left them penniless. A, that's like the most obvious thing. B, he's friends with really shitty people. Like, he's friends with Lord Hogman. C, was really bad at sex and possibly like rapes her mom. Like, I don't know, just from like the advice we get from the mom.
Yeah.
The dad sucked. It's giving like Mr. Bennett times a million, like way worse. Mr. Bennett, but like actively bad, not even just like passively like shitty.
I didn't think of the latter. I didn't really like put the latter two together. To be fair, the first one, we do get a line later in which Annabelle is like, Like her mom had like a jointure, like she got like whatever the widow's thing.
Sure.
And the reason they're poor is because it was invested badly, which implies that they were okay at the start and then
but who
lost
made
all
that
their money.
decision?
Probably his like solicitor. Listen, a man did. Basically, all of this would be solved if women were allowed to have bank accounts.
Right. Like, yeah.
The moral of every Kleypas story is that if women were allowed to have bank accounts, society would look like that like futuristic like meme thing.
God. Yeah. So Annabelle is like financially like thinks of herself, and it's very much like affirmed by her mom as like financially responsible to get married and like save her family, which is her mom and brother, from destitution.
And she's very much like practical at husband. She's basically like very Charlotte Lucas coded, except hot. She's hot Charlotte Lucas, and
except
she's 25
like,
instead of
except
27.
like a lot higher stakes, because it's not like the Lucas family. It's more like,
I just meant in terms of her like practicality of like, I just want a man who's going to be able to take care of me. Like, I don't need to be in love. I don't need him to be hot.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And she's like, my ideal husband would be the exact opposite of Simon Hunt. And I was like, ooh, honey,
it's giving
you got
what,
a big
like,
storm coming.
Yeah, it's giving like Lizzie Bennet if like Mr. Bennet actually died. Like, because then you can bet the switch would flip and she'd be like, fuck, like I have to like, I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know what Lizzie Bennet would do if they like actually were about to be destitute. If she would be like, okay, it's Mr. Collins for me. I don't know. Anyway, so the Wallflowers are Annabelle, redheaded Evie who has a stutter, and the two American girls, Lily and Daisy. They could have just committed to the Lily and Daisy bit, but they didn't. They're the real flowers. Like, anyway,
they're American heiresses. Yeah, they're not just like rando
that's why
Americans.
no one wants them, because they're like uncouth. Evie has a stutter. And then Annabelle's
and is very abused by her family. Like, Evie has like the most traumatic backstory.
Sure, she's just like shy. Yeah, but that's not what this book. Yeah, so they all have been like sitting next to each other and not talking this whole time, and then suddenly they decide to like join forces and help each other get married, which is nice.
Yeah. And I think that's like I don't know. I feel like that's the best part of this series in a lot of way. Like their friendship. Like it's very like.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like in a lot of other historicals, like the friendship is kind of like sidelined, specifically like modern ones a lot of the time.
Yeah,
but, like,
that used to really bother me before I just like accepted it. Like,
yeah,
when that would happen in stories, I'm like, why not though? Like, why doesn't this person have actual friends? Like
they do. The whole series is about them being friends.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so they band together. And yeah, Simon Hunt keeps asking Annabelle to dance, and she keeps saying no. And I just really love the description that Simon Hunt. Like I hate capitalists, and like Simon Hunt is like the OG capitalist, but like also I think it's incredibly funny, like the whole paragraph where it's like the aristocracy really hated that they had to invite him to all their parties because he was like too rich to be ignored.
No, really, I mean, I feel annoying. Like between the aristocracy and this like
right. I was like, listen, if I gotta pick one, it's gonna be Simon. And I think it's really funny that they are like so upset.
Yeah.
They're so mad that they have to invite him to parties.
Yeah. No. And like, so, and we're told, not really shown, that apparently Annabelle like hates him and like he's been like asking her out for like 2 years and she's always said no.
Well, I feel like that's what the prologue establishes, because that's when they like meet.
No, I know. I'm saying in this version, like we're just told over and over instead of like being shown at all. No, you're right. Like, no, the prologue like does a lot. I'm telling you, when I read the prologue the first time, I was like, it was boring. I didn't know where it was going. But then like it does set up a lot.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with Kleypas in general. Like, I feel like she's one of the few historical authors, I mean, just romance authors in general, where like her sex scenes like really push the plot forward. Like, I'm not saying a lot of sex scenes are like superfluous, but I'm saying they don't do as much. Like, her sex scenes do work. Like, in a lot of ways, her like intimate scenes do work in a lot of ways.
Are you counting the prologue in that? No, they just kiss.
Well, them making out, like,
sure,
them,
okay,
like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I feel like that is
sure.
They do a lot of work, and cutting them out does the book a disservice.
Yeah. It turns out that Annabelle's mom is sleeping with a man for money, which like good for her. I don't know. Not actually. I mean, it's like awful really that she has to do that. No, I feel really bad for her, but I feel even worse that Annabelle's like totally judging her for it and like never really stops, and that she just like hates herself so much when like you're like, I'm sorry. I just don't understand why they don't like live cheaper. They're like, no, we must like pretend to be super rich until the bitter end, and then we'll be like in a workhouse instead of just like, why don't we like
they're trying to send Jeremy to
not have
school.
servants. Sure, whatever. But like, so this man is a old friend of their dad's, which is like another reason the dad sucks. He was friends with this man. And yeah, because Annabelle's like, her anger was not directed solely at her mother. I was like, why would you be mad at her at all? Like,
I think it's just misplaced. Like,
no, I know, but like, why at all? I don't know. I mean, I get like I get it because the time, but like, whatever. I don't know. It's just really bold.
It's weird because Annabelle's essentially, she's very much aware that she's like, if I don't get married this season, like I have like all these men who won't marry me are just like waiting for me to be desperate enough that I'll agree to be one of their mistress. And she does have a thought where she's like, they couldn't afford Annabelle's morality. And like, I'm like, so you understand the tough decision that your mom makes, but you're still, but it is funny we get introduced to this, like everybody wants her to be their mistress because like Simon, like the first POV we get from Simon is when he's like talking to this one dude at a ball after Annabelle like turns him down for a dance. And the one dude is like, yeah, I can't wait until like she's so poor that we can fuck her. Like, I can't wait to fuck her. And Simon,
he's like, she'll probably go to the highest bidder eventually. And Simon's like, yeah, me. It's me. Is it me, Jesus?
Like, you will not. And also, if I hear you saying a mean thing about her ever again, I'll kill you. Just to be clear.
I'll butcher you. I'll carve you up, as it were. Carve you up like a little slice of salami.
The cat can have. There's a lot of cat references in this book.
No, there really are.
Have a little salami.
There really are. Annabelle was a parent. Yeah.
The fact that Simon, but I love that Simon at the same time. He's like, I'm rich. I don't need to be happy. I definitely don't have an unrelenting obsession with Annabelle that has lasted for 2 years that makes me keep asking her out, even though she's mean to me.
He gets so upset throughout when he's like, oh, this is so annoying that I'm like so overrun with my emotions or whatever.
What is this feeling?
So sudden.
I don't understand.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. So, okay. So then Annabelle gets an invite through like a convoluted, like there's no reason for these other characters to exist. I guess they're from an early, I don't know.
Well,
convoluted invite to his house party. What?
Have you not read the prequel novella to this series? I don't think there's an audiobook, which is why I didn't do it.
No, I don't think so. But you've told me about it like so many times. No, I know. It's like Olivia, what's her face, and like whatever.
And the sister. It's really good. Listener, I highly recommend it.
I feel like you said that a lot. Well, maybe it's not anymore if it's an audiobook form.
No, well, I don't know whether. Yeah, I can't think of any things that. No, actually, there are a lot of things that they probably could have cut. The original prequel novella. Read it. It's very good. And it's like also really not novella length. Like it's like 200 something pages. It's like a, Sarah J. Maas novella. But in that novella, like Lord Westcliff, who's the owner, who was doing the house party that they're now going to in Hampshire, his two sisters both like marry American businessmen. And so like Lillian and Daisy know one of the sisters, and that's how like they get invited. So they go to Stony Cross Park, which is like where basically the entire Wallflower series takes place, except for the third book. Like there's always at this one guy's house.
Yeah. I remember you said that. It's like the house party. They all hang out. And we were like just starting to read books. And Annabelle sets her sights on this like Lord, I already forgot his name, like Kendall. Kendall. Like Kendall. But he's not like a Kendall at all.
No, he's so sweet. I want him to have a happy ending. He's like a nice guy, but very boring.
And bookish and likes his plants. And she's like trying to get him. She's like, let's go for a walk. I happen to be an early riser. She lied, which I respect.
I wrote that down. I was like, Rachel, did you notice? Oh, I also want to mention that Lord Westcliff. So him and Simon are best friends. That's why Simon is also at this house party. And Westcliff is a short king, which is very rare in romance. Yeah. Multiple times it's stated Westcliff was not tall.
No, not the tallest man, which could mean a lot of things. It could mean he's like 6'3" when the other people are like 6'4".
No, I think he's I think he's supposed to be like 5'9". Like him and Lillian, I think, are almost the same height. And like Lillian's just like a tall woman. Like I think she's like 5'9" or something. Like, so yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, listen,
It is rare.
take
It
the
is
short
rare.
king where I get it.
You're
And
right.
the fact
You're
that
right.
it's emphasized so many times
No, you're
that he's
right.
shorter than everyone
You're right.
else.
And usually that would like tell you for sure, like, oh, he's not going to be the hero, like in any capacity.
Yeah, but no.
I bet you in his book it's not emphasized. Like
It
I
is.
can't remember.
No,
It
I
is?
remember
Okay.
in like multiple times. And it's
Okay.
even emphasized that like Lillian is like, yeah, we're the same height. Like I'm pretty sure. So
Okay.
wonderful. Spoiler alert for the next book. It's Lillian and Westcliff.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, that's really
set up in
obvious.
this
Yeah,
book.
you
It's
can
really
totally
great.
tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like they're supposed to go. So Kendall is like a hot commodity. Like all the girls at this party want him, because it's like the end of the season. So like instead of it just being a walk with the two of them, he has like a whole entourage.
Wait, but before that, she has an encounter with Lord Todgem, who's like, "You're gonna be my mistress next."
Someone who's sleeping with her mom.
Stay away from me.
That happens a few times.
Yeah, he runs away. Like Lord Todgem leaves, and then Simon, quote, he approached her with cat-like quietness, and he appears, and he's like, "What was that about?"
Ooh.
And she was like, "What? God, I didn't even see her." And yeah, but then they go, yeah. So she goes down to meet, like, this is like when she's on her way to meet Lord Kendall for the walk. And then it turns out all the other ladies, like, yeah, appeared for some reason. They all like knew he was going to go for a walk. So like,
they're
basically
all
she's
actually early risers.
Yeah.
She's what?
She's so basically she spends a walking with Simon. And I really love whatever that trope, I don't know what that trope is called, but like the trope of like girl is supposed to go on date with other guy, but like the date ends up being just a date with the hero, you know, like, I don't know. I feel like I've seen it in other books. It's definitely like something.
Yeah, we definitely have. Yeah. It's like in Bridgerton, like with Kate, like it's in the show.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Something. Just like the group walk, which I feel like it's a common enough activity. Yeah, makes sense.
They go on a little walk and they're having a conversation. I just want to say that like I really just love Annabelle and Simon's banter throughout, because it's like, I mean, I guess they're kind of enemies to lovers, but like I wouldn't call this like a strictly I feel like Lillian and Westcliff are like the enemies to lovers story in this. Like these are just kind of just like opposites attract. And they just have really good banter, and I feel like they always have like they have the same sense of humor, and it's like I feel like it just, I don't know, all their conversations, I'm like, oh, goobers, you cute little goobers. And at one point during this walk, Annabelle's like, if I had money, I'd have been married years ago. And Simon's like, I have money. How much do you want?
No, yeah, I
got
money. I know. And that's like they're setting up the like whole bank account versus love thing that like doesn't really get developed in this version. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's cute.
And now they go to the wishing well, all the Wallflowers. They go and make a wish. And Annabelle's like, I'm going to make a wish to marry a peer. But then like she throws it in and her brain's like, I want to fall in love. I wish to fall in love. And she's like, no, I take it back.
Weird flex, but okay. And then that's what she ends up. Yeah.
She's like, God damn it.
Yeah. And then they play rounders. So
which is cricket, baseball, like early version
like
of cricket/baseball.
Cricket, baseball. Yeah.
So
they have
rounders was a thing in England too. Like, and they play it in their undergarments. So it's like rounders and knickers.
Yeah.
And I think it's really funny that knickers was originally an American word.
Oh, really?
Because like in the book, and Kleypas does a lot of research, so I'm inclined to believe this is real.
Oh yeah, no,
it comes from Knickerbocker, which is very much like an American.
Is it?
Knickerbocker is like an American term of like the old rich people in New York. Like that's like an actual historical term. So like, I think it comes from that, right? But it's funny that like knickers is American,
very much a British
but now
thing,
like British. Yeah.
I wonder if like other things like bangers for salt. I could see that. That seems like
bangers
it somehow started being American.
Yeah. Well, it's the same. It's like soccer, right?
Yeah. They're like the opposite. Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me look it up.
And when Annabelle's like hitting the ball, she's like Lillian's like, hit him, like pretend that you're hitting the ball into Simon's face. And she's like, I'm going to aim lower.
And then who rides up? Of course, but Westcliff and Simon.
And they see them in their underwear, which their underwear, listener, just to emphasize, their underwear is like fully clothed. Like their underwear is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's like picture like old fashioned bathing suits.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, and then after the rounders and knicker scenes, we just get a whole just a scene of like Simon and Westcliff like chatting about it, and both of them freaking out over having seen their respective love interest. Like, and Simon's like, both the sisters were in their underwear, and Westcliff is like, I only noticed the older ones. No reason at all. Because she's so annoying. But this is also a scene that they heavily cut. They cut like the scene in half. But I bring this up because in this scene, Westcliff, this is like the first of many times. And Westcliff is such a misogynistic dick about Annabelle. He's such a dick. Because they had a background where Annabelle was like, yeah, my first season, like, he's like a rich titled man. Yeah. Like, I went for him and he like roundly rejected me. So like, Westcliff basically judged her as like a quote unquote husband hunter. Like he thinks she's like vapid and like whatever. And I just like, it just filled me. It didn't bother me as much the first time I read this, but like when I read this again, I was like, Westcliff, you are just so full of shit. Like the fact that you live and benefit from a world which puts Annabelle into the position in which her only option is to get married.
Right.
And then like, you're gonna like call her.
Yeah, no, I know.
Like, yeah, of course she went up to you. Like, you're a rich titled guy who's like known for being like a generally good guy.
Right. Like why else do you think you get everything else in life? Like,
yeah, I don't understand. Sir, nobody would give a fuck about you if you were just the village baker. Like, I'm sorry.
Right. Like, yeah, no, it's just so bold. Your eyes like perfectly match your shirt right now.
Wow. Yeah, I love Westcliff, but I was like, you're really getting on my fucking nerves. And he apologizes at the end. But I was like, I know Westcliff's not the hero of this book, but like, I kind of wanted him to grovel. And like, he doesn't really, I mean, he does like save her life, but like, he doesn't, I was like, I feel like I need a little bit more from you, Marcus, sir.
And so like Westcliff like is like, yeah, of course I won't say anything. But the Wallflowers are like, oh man, like we have to make sure that like, what's his face, Hunt doesn't, Annabelle, you have to make sure the Hunt doesn't say anything. Like you have to bring it up to him. You have to bring it up to him. Like convince him not to. And Annabelle's like, well, what if we just like, can't we just not say anything and like hope he won't say anything? And like Lillian or something is like, oh yeah, haha, let's just cross our fingers and wait. That's so dumb. And I'm like, no, that like is the solution though. Like avoidance. I mean, that is always like, yeah, just like pretending like it doesn't happen. Like
it doesn't happen.
Gaslight. Like
usually
I don't know.
It goes.
It usually is the right call.
Gaslight yourself.
Right. Exactly. No, exactly. Like yeah, just like right. That's the lesson that it's power that I shouldn't have, but I do.
Don't let other people gaslight you, but do gaslight yourself. That's the solution to life. Like that's the ultimate life advice that I can give. The only person who's allowed to gaslight you is yourself.
That's so funny because that's like one of the first things like Callie said in this job. She's like, yeah, like I don't think anyone could ever gaslight me. Like I would do great in like, you know, like a totalitarian like state, but like I can gaslight myself anyway. So
her ankle hurts.
Yeah. So she goes up to him and she's like, hey, don't say anything. And he's like, all right, well, what do I get in return? And she's like, okay, like we can kiss.
Oh my God, this is.
And he's like, I have to tread lightly. Have to be careful here. I thought you were going to ask for like a dance or a waltz. And she's like, well, I thought about that, but that would take way longer. Like that would be at least like 3 minutes. And he's like, well, a kiss. She's like, I mean, there's no way a kiss could take that long. And he's like, okay.
He's like, not the way I kiss.
Yeah.
And she's like, don't be ridiculous. And he's like, okay, sure, we'll take your word for it. Wait, I just need to point out that at one point, I didn't write down the context of this, but at one point Lillian goes, zounds. And I just thought that was incredible. Just incredible. I like my only note is just a single bullet point that says zounds. That's it.
So then she like stumbles out to the garden and her ankle's fucked and she's like vomiting. She's like throwing up at the flower beds. And he shows up and like has to carry her back. And it turns out she's been bitten by a fucking adder. Except apparently it's a Hampshire adder, which I refuse to believe that has like any relation to like an actual poison. And then we looked it up before. Like it doesn't have any relation to like an actual poisonous snake, does it? Like to an actual adder? Like the kind that like they used to kill people with back at like Socrates shit. But like, because he says, he's like, don't worry, like, they don't produce enough venom to kill anything bigger than a cat or a very small dog, which implies that Annabelle is not a cat.
Although
if she's not dead, she is still
Simon
alive.
Does pick her when he picks her up, carries her to her bed, and he moves, quote, like a cat on the prowl. And it's specified he moves with grace, not like a dancer, but like a cat on the prowl. I was like, why do we need the dancer? Like, why was that?
Why do we need to like put the dancer?
It's not a dancer,
like
guys. It's a cat, like really specifically like a cat on the prowl. And then he tears her, he like undoes her corset with his knife because she can't breathe. And also this whole time he's calling her sweetheart, and he's just a total fucking simp. And Annabelle is like, what's going on? He's being really nice to me. I'm developing weird feelings about this.
He's like, are you throwing up because you didn't want to kiss me? Because you're like so grossed out that you had to kiss me. Like in light of your recent agreement, it's quite unflattering. Yeah.
She's like, no, yeah, but he has a snake bite. And that's another thing that would they cut. So like Annabelle doesn't have ankle boots. Like she was wearing basically like ballet flats because she's poor and she can't afford ankle boots. And earlier in one of the scenes that was cut down, Simon is like, oh, I can't believe she was out there without ankle boots. Like, silly woman, why would she be out in nature without ankle boots? It's like, I don't know why it bothers me so much that she can't afford them. And then she gets bitten, and then he gives her boots later on. And
yeah, he like and he like sneakily like has like a maid like steal one of her shoes to like trace the bottom, which is really smart actually.
I would have totally accepted him being like, well, when I held your foot to expect your ankle,
that's what I thought it was going to be. No, that's what I thought it was going to be when I forgot. He's like, well, I have a very good innate sense of like spatial like measure.
He's like, I am a butcher. I know how to like measure things with my hand, like something like that. Yeah. But yeah, during this scene, like he's getting her to breathe and they're holding hands, and like he has like, like that's when he's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Shit. Because he just like fully described. He just has an epiphany where he's like, I am in danger.
Yeah. So then she has to spend the next like 5 days being sick and like she can't like pursue Lord Kendall anymore or whatever. She's just like sitting there like moping in the window,
cuddling with her ankle boots that she got. She like doesn't know who they're from.
Yeah, she's like, well, plausible deniability. Like if they were from him, I'd have to return them. But like, I don't know who they're from.
He never admits to it.
Say, yeah.
But she literally like falls asleep with them. Like she's like cuddling them, and her mom's like, why don't we put these on the floor? And she's like, no. Ankle boots.
I haven't worn them yet with the adders. Yeah, like she's on the bed, like to the next level.
And I mean, listen, custom like fancy ass leather shoes that are like they have like flower embroidery on them.
Oh, really?
Like, these are cute as fuck.
Oh, that's nice.
I was like, these are.
I think it looks nice.
I'd wear those. Like, heck yeah.
Yeah, those are very in these days. And so he like comes to play chess with her, which is cute.
But before then, she's quote half drowsing like a cat in this room.
Yeah, and then the creepy Lord Hodge man comes and like tries to get with her again. And
he tries to assault her.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He is like forcing himself on her.
Yes. He tries to get her. And the mom like interrupts and like distracts him. And
it's very sad. It's like, this is like a very sad scene. I was like, her poor mom.
I know.
I was so happy because of like the chess playing and the chess metaphor. And then Lisa's just got to bring me right down again.
Yeah, it's pretty dark. And this whole time I miss like how he comes to this conclusion. She like lets him believe it. But like Simon thinks that Annabelle's the one sleeping with Hodge because there's like a rumor going around because he's what? Yeah,
because Hodgins like carriage has been seen outside her house.
No,
like,
but how does Annabelle confirm it, or is that just something they like badly edited out?
No. It's because that first time she has a fight with Hodgin when Simon sneaks up on her silently like a cat. She has a fight with Hodgin where Hodgin's like, I'm gonna sample you next, and she's like, fuck off, and Simon's like, I didn't hear, but I heard you guys were arguing, and he has already heard the rumor, so like. And then they have like a convo where like he thinks that she's basically confirmed. Because she's never denies it. She's just like, none of your business every time he brings it up, which like good for you, Annabelle. Like it's not any of his business.
No, it's really
she's
not.
like, I'm not even going to dignify that like with a yes or no.
With a response. Yeah.
Yeah. But then she's trying to get back to her room because obviously she doesn't want to stay in this room where this old creepy man just tried to assault her while she's like super sick, while she's quote weak as a kitten, as someone would say. And Simon comes up again and he's like, what are you doing? What are you doing out of bed? You are ill. What is going on?
And then he teaches her about trains. And then he asked her to be his mistress, which was a miscalculation. Right after he's like, I'm just now beginning to think I might have made an error.
Yes. But so he asked her, she's in bed and she can't go. There's like a nice like live music playing that everyone's watching, and she's like sad because she's like, she can't do it. She can't be there. So he like, there's like a secret room that's essentially like overlooks the music room, but is like hidden. And he like sets up a dinner where he's like, I didn't know what you liked, so I got them to make everything. And then like they have a little like cute little do a little candlelit dinner, and they're going around like so well. She's listening to the music. He's like, you could do with a bit of spoiling, Annabelle. And then this fucker is like, yes, be my mistress. What's your price? What's your price?
Yeah. And she's like, fuck you. Yeah. And she's like, I'm running away. But first let's make out for like 2 seconds and then I'll run away.
This was the music scene. This was the music room scene where they're in the alcove and they're hiding from the musicians. This was what it originally was, but they cut at and turned it. I was just like,
I guess
why?
she's like not really into it. Like it's just like, oh, he's like like there is like even parts that were left in where it's like she can't get away even if she like
right. But it's the same. It's the same kind of like old school historical romance. Like she can't admit that she wants it because then she'd be a slut. But like we know that you know what I mean? Like that's
no, I know.
Yeah, I hate that they sanitized it. Anyway, then they're playing secret silent chess.
I feel like it's also because she's like so offended by like
she's just like quote unquote resisting her emotion. Yeah, she is. To be fair, he's immediately like, oh, that was a bad thing to say. I am sorry. I apologize.
I meant it in a marriage way. It's like, really, what's the difference? Really, what is the difference? Like, I'm sorry. No,
that's the thing. At one point, she has the thought, she's like, I couldn't be Simon Hunt's mistress because then he would like control everything about my life. And I'm like, what's the difference between that and marriage?
Right.
Like, other than the fact that like, if he dies, like, you get to inherit his shit.
Yeah, at least that you can like go into quote unquote society, like,
right?
Which is her whole thing. Usually doesn't realize that people have parties outside the aristocracy, which is really funny. Yeah, like they go to Paris and she's like, wait a second, there's other people in the world. Couldn't be me.
Like, yeah. But so they have like a secret silent chess game where they're like the chessboard is open and they're like moving pieces. And this goes on for several rounds in the original book, but in this book it only goes on for one round because they cut out all the other rounds for seemingly no reason.
Don't understand. It's so bizarre. Like
why? He's gone back to London, and so there's like a week where she's like pining for him, and then he comes back, and this time we still have him coming back, but like he hasn't been gone for more than a paragraph.
You think Lisa was like involved in that? Like
she had to be.
I know, but do you think she made the like initial call or like, I don't know.
No, I think her publisher was probably like, hey, do you want to do this?
I mean, do you think she made the first pass? Like, do you think she was the one making the edits or was someone else? And then she just like signed off on it. She was like checked out because I could get that. I could understand that.
I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, it could have just been her editor going through. I mean, that's usually what it is that I'm just thinking of like when I've updated books like that, like I've like made the edits and then the author will like approve or deny the edit.
So then the Wallflowers come up with a scheme to like trap Lord Kendall, like get Annabelle to kiss him, and then like they all walk in on him, which seems really bold and unnecessary because like he already is like about to propose. I don't know. Yeah. He does propose.
Well, Annabelle's like, I just don't have time. Like he definitely would by like in like a month or two, but like I don't have a month or two is basically like her.
But she is shocking nobody but herself. She's like, no, last minute. She's like, I couldn't.
She's wearing the boots. She's wearing the boots.
Yeah.
And then she runs into Simon.
Yeah. And then they make out, and that's who everyone walks in on.
Yeah.
And like Simon's like, yeah, he's like, let's get married. And she's like, okay. And then like everyone walks in.
Well, no, wait. Part of his proposal is like, you've never had anyone to lean on, have you? I've got strong shoulders, Annabelle. And I was nice. I don't. Kleypas really knows how to do confessions of love. That's what I'm saying. Like they're incredibly cheesy, but somehow like they work in her books.
So the whole gang, which is like the Wallflowers and Westcliff and like Olivia bitch and like the Daisy and the Ladies bomb, walk in and they're like, oh well, we saw nothing. Like we don't want. Like Westcliff's like, you guys saw nothing. I don't want like Simon to marry Annabelle because she sucks. She's like a gold digging whore.
He's a fucking
and
bitch.
He's like, right, we're like already engaged. It actually doesn't matter. And then he's like, fine, we'll go like get like,
he's like, if these people won't testify to you being compromised, like I'll go compromise you somewhere else.
Like we're literally already engaged.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I just want insurance.
Yeah. Which is like, I've already agreed to marry you. Why must I be compromised? And he's insurance.
Yeah, which is like I feel like where else? I feel like that's shown up like a few times. It's shown up a few times. It's like the same. It's like we have to like actually have sex to like insurance or whatever, which like seems like less.
Oh, that's also that's in Winterborn.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot more parallels between this. Maybe that's why I like them so.
That makes sense. Why you would like it.
Like Yeah.
And I
Okay.
what?
Anyway.
So they go on their honeymoon to Paris, and this is when Annabelle's like, "Wow, like there are still parties outside the British aristocracy. What a shock! I'm shocked." And they have a great time.
Yeah, but then when they're like on their wedding night, like they're about to have sex, and like first of all, like Simon doesn't think she's a virgin like this whole time. He thinks she's fully been having sex with Hajim, and then when she's like nervous, he's like, "Don't worry, like it's not like I know you probably like had a bad time with that guy, but like I'll be like nice or whatever." And she's like, so which first of all, already adorable, but then she's like, "No, I'm a virgin," and he's like, record scratch, what? Like it? Excuse me. I don't know what to do with that. What? And yeah, then we get a full-on Lisa Kleypas like euphemism sex scene. And I just want to once again point out that they cut out the music scene make out, but they include Simon saying that she's tight in this sex scene. Like, why? What? Who decided what to cut out? I just want to talk. Like, really? There seems to be no rhyme or reason.
No, I know. I don't get it. Like, it's yeah. Like, were they
And
cutting
this
out
was
like the most
published like
expensive
2 years
words?
ago. You know what I mean? Like this wasn't like a
Yeah.
2018 edition.
Maybe
like
we've
this was
already
like
forgotten what like was and wasn't like okay.
I feel like tight was
Changed.
out. Tight was already out when I started reading romance.
No, I mean
and
with
this,
some of the I'm saying with some of the others that they cut, maybe that was like not okay in 2019, but now or you said 2 years ago, that would have been 2021.
it was published after we started reading romance. That's
Okay.
what I know, which was 2020.
Yeah.
So
Wow,
yeah.
it's been 3 years.
Yeah, anyway, and then he requests the waltz, in Paris. She's like, "Oh my God, I love this song. Like, this is a song that I always wanted to dance to, but like no one would ever dance with me." And he's like, "I know, like I saw your face every time they played it. So like I requested it just for you."
Yeah, that was sweet. She's like, "How could he possibly have noticed that?" He's like, "He's obsessed with you."
It's like ma'am, it's been 2 years of him just pining after you. Like the number of times when she's like, "I feel a prickle on the back of my neck," and then she turns around and Simon's just like unblinking, staring at her. She's like, "What's going on?"
So then they come back and it's time for like the families to meet each other and like it goes fine. But Annabelle overhears like Simon's mom talking to him and being like, "Does she even love you, Simon? Like you could have married any of the women that I set you up with, like good middle class women. Why not them?"
I mean, listen, you can't blame the mom.
No, and this really sets up like, I mean, this is the only time we really get that whole conflict of like Simon being like, "Well, does she even love me? Like whatever."
Yeah, like
I feel like she should have shown up like way before, like did show up way before in the original.
Yeah, there were scenes that were cut. There's a whole thing in which the part when she says, "I don't know where I belong," is when they're like at an aristocrat party or whatever. And I think like some like creepy lord makes a joke about like swapping spouses because like that's what the aristocrats do. And Simon gets like really defensive and Annabelle's like, "Why did you embarrass me like that? It was obviously a joke." And Simon is like, "Well, it's not a fucking joke to me. Like I don't think that's funny." And then she's like, she's basically just like, "I don't belong in their world and I don't belong in your world and I don't know where I belong." And like it's tense or whatever.
Yeah, why do they cut so much? I
don't know why they cut that part.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a cat in a cat nipped by a puppy in Simon's family scene. And they do have a maid, so they're not poor.
They're middle class, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would hope so because Simon's super fucking rich. So like if he's not like providing
well, no, because there's that whole thing where they're like Annabelle's mom is like, "Well, why don't they have a nicer house when Simon's so rich?" And Annabelle's like, I just don't know how to explain to her. They just like living this way, like, which is just like silly. Like they definitely could. I think he definitely would. I think it's implied they would, but they just like being butchers. Like I don't know.
Listen,
like,
if his dad likes it, it's his dad's business. He's proud of it. He's like, "I enjoy it."
Sure, but like if the family wants like a nicer house, I don't know.
But I guess they don't. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know.
The mom is very into
they live in like a small
class.
apartment above the shop. Yeah, it's giving. Oh, it reminds me of that. Remember that Hallmark movie we watched where she becomes a rockette? Oh, and then like the hero is like, what? It's like a grocery shop. It's what his parents wanted. Oh, yeah. He's like, "No, I want to be a photographer, mama, papa." That was a good one. We should watch that again. In my head, I want you to know it's not actually the case, but in my head, the heroine has become like the blonde girl from Pitch Perfect.
Yes, me too.
Okay.
Me too. Also from John Tucker Must Die.
Why not her? Is that the same person?
Yeah, Brittany Snow.
That's not Brittany. No. I mean the other blonde girl, the head the head singer girl.
Quite
I
honestly,
recognize
they
that she
both
might have
look
actually.
the same.
No, I recognize that this person probably looked more like Brittany Snow. No,
No,
Brittany Snow
I
has
think
one of the short. Brittany Snow has a short face, and this other girl has a long face.
But I think they just also anyway. Okay, it's not. You know what I mean? It's not relevant. Regardless.
Anyway,
I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, okay, good. So okay, then we have Simon. We have this setting up like the big shebang at the end. Simon comes home from the foundry injured, and he's like, Annabelle's like worried about him and like upset, and he's like, I don't understand, like, why do you care about my like, physical safety? It would upset you if I were died.
And they're both like, Annabelle is shook that she feels this way, and Simon is shook that Annabelle is shook, and he's like, what?
And he's like, don't
worry,
I heal quickly. I was like, all right, Mr. Fay, like, okay. What are you, a fucking
resand?
Yeah.
But then like they're about to make out, they're having this intimate bathtub scene, and then Jeremy, who
wait, sorry, stop. Before that, we get some minor corset slander. But it is minor because it's apparently like a metal corset, but the only slander is that Simon's like, I can't feel your boobs through this. Like, I hate it. It sucks.
I'm gonna be honest, I did appreciate this because one, it emphasized that Lisa Kleypas knows her corset history and like that corsets were not that up until this point, and that it's a new invention that happened with the Industrial Revolution. And like it was like the fact that they were reinforced.
I never heard of metal corsets before.
It's the fact that it was like the rods inside them. It's like underwire basically.
Oh, it's actually like a full like knight's shield. Like
no. It's like it looks like a regular corset. It's just the it's not whaleboat. You know what I mean? It's like a different. Whatever. But the reason they had that's the reason, like the whole middle of the 19th century, they had those giant dresses, is because they finally had the corsets that were able to hold them up, that were able to provide enough support to like have that many petticoats and like that many flounces, because they didn't have that before.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That's why they had those heavy dresses.
I want to try on one of those dresses.
They're very fun. They really swish around.
But like from the time period. But probably none would exist that would fit me.
Well,
because if it did exist, it would have like already gotten taken apart to make more, right? Isn't that why like only the small ones?
That's why a lot of things don't exist. Yeah. It's because they were reused.
Because my first thought was like maybe it would actually exist because it would be such an unusual size, right? And that's what usually remains. But then I was like, no, because it could have been taken apart to make like 5 like children's dresses or something. Like, it's okay.
Jeremy, Annabelle's little brother, who has many more scenes, but I thought that they were just gonna fully cut out Jeremy. Like, I was like,
okay, because I was like, where's Jeremy? We keep hearing about Jeremy. He doesn't fucking show up. Yeah.
I remembered this scene, and I remember that he's the one that delivers this news, and I was like, okay, so I guess they can't cut him out, but I just don't understand why this is gonna be basically his first appearance.
No, right. Okay. Yeah. So he did appear before. It's so bizarre.
He appears in the prologue.
Literally, I know that. No, I literally wrote like, wow, I really mixed this book up with that book that starts with the like show and the brother. No, it's like so bold. I know. They cut out like a full like quarter of the book, right? Like I feel like you're right that it should have been like 12 hours long.
Cut out, I would say, like at least 15%.
Yeah.
Just comparing like the parts that I really noticed where I was like, oh, this was cut. Like it was like several pages at a time. Plus like here and there, just like random paragraphs and like sentences that I was like, why? Like random lines of dialogue that I was like, why was it necessary to cut this? Like, whatever. Yeah. But so it's Jeremy brings the news that Philippa, the mom, has stabbed the creepy guy that she had to fuck for money, which good for her is what I say. She stabbed him with scissors. With these scissors.
So when she's fully like, yeah, I wanted to kill him. Yeah, listen, nothing's wrong with scissors. They're sharp enough. She's like, yeah, I wanted to kill him. He said he was gonna rat you out. He was gonna tell everyone that like we slept together, which I guess like
if she didn't continue to fuck him.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, so I just tried to kill him. Yeah, I did. I said what I said. But
he's like, I really don't care anymore. I do not give a fuck. But don't worry, Daddy Simon swoops in.
He's immediately like, Jeremy, go get all the evidence, go burn it in the hellfire of my foundry. Like, you just tell them my name. They'll do what you say. Which is really bold.
And then he goes to Hajib and he's basically like, I will slice you up. I know how to slice up meat, and I will slice you up if you do not keep your goddamn mouth, your little rat mouth.
Like shut. Bribes the doctor with like liquor. No, I know. He doesn't even try to bribe Hotchum. He's just like, yeah, you're fucking.
He's like, I will kill you.
Or he's like, all right, mom and Jeremy, like you're going on like a European trip with my mom and sister for some reason, which is
well,
so
the mom
bold.
and the sister were already going on a European
trip. I know.
trip.
It's so bold of him to be like, right, you're also taking these people that you don't know. Apparently they become like
he's
really
paying
friends.
for it, I guess.
Well,
like,
right. Okay.
Listen, Daddy Simon is covering up a crime. He's got to do what he's got to do.
Sure. Okay? You could have just had them on like a separate trip, whatever. The moms become really good friends. Anyway.
Yeah.
Now Annabelle's like, I want to go to the foundry. I want to go to the foundry. And Simon's like, okay, let's take a trip to hell. Almost like you're not wrong.
Like, he's like, no, it's too dangerous for you. And she's like, you have spent the last month telling me that it's not dangerous at all. And that's why I shouldn't be worried about you going there. So like,
another tactical error. I might have been
I think it's literally described as that. Like Simon just realized his tactical error.
No, I know. Yeah.
And so now we had Daddy Simon. Now we get Mommy Annabelle because the foundry explodes. Oh, and this is, we never mentioned, this is a foundry that Simon owns with Westcliff. Like it's to make their trains, choo-choo trains. And the foundry explodes and Annabelle gets out, but Simon is like, I got to go back and rescue my workers because I may be capitalist, but I don't want them to die because it's a hell of a hard time finding
I still need workers.
I don't want to train them. They're too skilled.
Yeah.
So he runs back in and then Annabelle's like sitting and she's like, wait, where the fuck is Simon? And they're like, I don't fucking know. Like there was a little explosion and that was the last time I saw him. And so she's like, got a blast. And she runs in and she finds him and he's like, has a big metal like pole on him. And
she can't lift it. Yeah.
She can't lift it. And she's willing. Oh, I forgot. There's a part in which when he cuts off the corset thing, she's like, do you always carry a pocket knife with you? And he's like, yes. And so like when he's crushed, she's like, Simon, where's your knife? And for a moment, he's like to cut off his leg.
Yeah.
And for a moment,
with
he's
a pocket knife. It's really bold.
For a moment, he's like, no, it wouldn't work. You couldn't drag me out. I'm too heavy. And like, I love that he considers it. Like, he's just like, you know what? That's a smart idea. Let me think this through.
Yeah, it would have been over like molten metal. No, I know. But then he's like, leave me, save yourself. And she's like, no. And then luckily, before they both perish in hell, Westcliff shows up to save the day. And he's like, all right, like I can pull the lever, Kronk.
Well, because she made like a cantilever. Like she made something to like, you pulled something over to like lift it up. And she's just on. Yeah. So Westcliff was like, I'm going to do the lever and you're going to pull him out. And then they get out and they're all safe and sound. And Westcliff
inhalation damage notwithstanding. Westcliff.
Yeah. And I'm going to say, I know like I couldn't help the whole time when she's running through and it's like the fire was happening and the steel beams were falling. I was like, Jeff, you can't melt steel beams. Jeff, I was like, is this fire hot enough?
Oh my God. I didn't know
Where's the conspiracy? Is it the IRA?
Oh my God. I hope so. Yeah, that'd be really funny.
The IRA pops up in other Lisa Kleypas books. So I'm just saying, she knows that they're there.
Listen, Westcliff's a peer, enemy. Listen, it checks out.
They're both British.
Should be Scottish. Westcliff should be Scottish. Or I mean, Hunt should be Scottish or whatever.
Yeah.
Somehow. Yeah. And then like, okay, then we have this whole like debrief with Westcliff. And like, honestly, I'm gonna be honest, because this book was so boring in this version. I was like, you know what? Honestly, I'm kind of like, why not be a rich widow, Annabelle? Like,
why not?
Like, I can't, like, the sense of relief I felt. I was like, listen, he could be dead and you could be rich.
And we have, so Wes's apologized and she like basically immediately accepts it. And like, I know he like technically just saved her life, but like he did it for Simon. Okay. Like he wouldn't have gone in if they were just her, first of all. Also, Kleypas does this thing. And this happens in this scene and it happens in many other of her books where it's basically like a man apologizes and the heroine is like, I suspect that he rarely gives apologies. So I should accept it because he's a man who does not give apologies often. And like she uses this many times in her books. And every time I'm like, I don't know about that, Lisa. I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
That's not how that works.
Right. It's giving the like, it's trying to use the logic of like, oh, this person doesn't give compliments much. So like when they do, it's like they must mean it, which first of all also probably isn't true. But like, yeah, it's not the same, very false equivalency. No. It just makes them a shitty person. Take what you can get.
But then we have a beautiful love confession scene. She even brings in the seasons when Simon is like, why wouldn't you go when I told you to go? And she's like, I couldn't think of it, like all those summers and winters without you, like you staying the same, blah blah blah. And I was like, good job, Lisa.
Memory.
The confessions of love scene are always great in Kleypas. They're always like, they're somehow very long but never cheesy, which there are other historical romance authors that it's like also very long, but I'm just like, no one would ever say this. I can't imagine a person ever like speaking like this in my life. And like, I don't think a person would necessarily speak like the way Kleypas's characters speak, but like it feels real in her books in the way that like a lot of other historicals, like it feels believable, like that her characters would do that. Whereas in the other books, I'm like, why? You know what it sounds like? It sounds like when I was younger, well, I still do this, but specifically when I was younger and I would make up stories to tell myself before I went to sleep. And, you know, naturally a lot of times they were love stories.
I wasn't there to do
anymore. And, you know, I would get to the confession of love scene because I could write fucking novels. I did in fact write novels based on some of these. And the confession, like it's the confessions of love scenes that I would do, in which you just like list all the things that you like about them, and then you're like, I love you, and like, but that's not.
That's pretty impressive because that's hard to think of even for like people you know in real life.
I mean, it was like the same thing every time, like no matter which story it was.
But I always really sympathized with Derek, the Swan Princess. He's like, why do you love me? Well, you're hot. What else?
Is beauty all that matters?
What else? No, you just can't like verbalize. Like it's hard to think of things.
Just vibes, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
vibes.
It's hard to like think. It's hard to like put like especially in the moment or in general. And I'll be honest, it's giving college essay, which I'm terrible at.
Listen, disclaimer for me, I did have to workshop those confessions of love scenes in my head for like, you know, weeks before I got the right monologue.
Yeah. It's just like, you just have to think of the right generic words that like the person wants to hear. It's giving like, I don't know. It's just one of those like stupid canned answers that like you somehow have to get the right script for. Not always. No, I'm not saying it has to be. It's just like, I know. I sympathize with like an inability to do that.
Well, except that this confession of love scene feels more canned because you don't have the payoffs because they got cut.
I know. No, I didn't.
The callbacks got cut.
No, I know. Like, why did
listener, I cannot emphasize this whole series.
But I'm still because I'm sure that it was just like that it was disingenuous, that it was like hidden. That's still like I feel like the worst.
At the very end, they have a line that's like, "This is altered from the original 2004 version." And I was like, it's not okay. But see, I hear that and I think, okay, maybe they cut out a sentence in which a character used a slur that was acceptable like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Or like some of Kleypas's books, like earlier books, like she has like Roma characters and like she used like the G word instead of, you know what I mean? So like I can see that you can cut that out. Fine. That's an altered text. This was an abridged text. This was an abridged work.
Yeah, like extensively abridged.
Very mad. But yeah, if you're going to read the Wallflowers, you got to go to like a used bookstore or like maybe the version that you're.
It's like the Bible without Genesis and Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yeah,
like we got Revelation, but like the Hellfire doesn't do as much without the setup. Yeah.
God, I never thought I would be like, don't listen to this audiobook. Although there definitely have been a few books where we were like, this person was terrible. Don't listen to that book edition. Where the narrator was like so annoying.
Right. But like not where we like read the regular one also.
No, yeah. You're gonna miss out.
Anyway,
I'm still so steamed. It doesn't help that this room is like really hot. I'm like, already.
You look really hot. Your face is red when you turn to the side, especially. You can tell.
Yeah, it's because the office when I close the door, like there's no airflow. Anyway, cat scale for this.
Very high. The highest in a while. Like we haven't had one this high in a while.
Yeah, and this was again one of those. You know, like I said, the Viscount Who Loved Me was the one that made me first think of the cat scale because that was the first one I read. But this was like I started this series like immediately after I finished the Bridgertons, basically. And so I was like, Kleypas, like Lisa, you're really providing the cat references. Like everyone's a cat in Lisa's books. Every single fucking person is a cat.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. 3, 2. Oh, 9. Sorry, that was kind of
you
just
already
like a preview.
Said 3, 2, 1.
It's a preview. Listen. All right, well, I give it a 9.
Okay. 8.5.
Definitely doing lower than we used to. Yeah. Back when we really got the high ones.
Well, I just feel like we have so much more to compare it to. Like we've been like doing them for so much longer that like in the beginning, like
yeah, like
you have like one cat quote and we were like 9 out of 10.
Absolutely. All right, Allison, where can they find us?
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at We Read It One Night. You can find us on with Twitter at We Read It Podcast. You can check out our Etsy store, Evelyn Adelaide, where you can get clothes that'll allow you to match with us. And I have some really exciting designs that are definitely going to be up by the time this episode comes up. And I was wearing one of my sweatshirts in a TikTok the other day, and someone was like, I love your sweatshirt. Where was that from? And multiple people bought them like immediately within 24 hours of that comment. So you could be cool. Leave us a rating and review wherever you're listening.
Godspeed, comrades.
Godspeed.